Hi, I'm Celia, 34 years old, a single mom who never imagined my own family would turn against me. A sunny morning at our family reunion in Yellowstone, my 7-year-old daughter singing a cheerful nursery rhyme. Out of nowhere my brother snaps, slaps her face and sneers, like mother, like daughter, both useless. My heart stops, my mom smirks, nodding in approval, while my dad stands there, silent, not saying a word. The worst part, they didn't know the documentary Mike was recording every second of their cruelty. Autumn was just being a kid, her voice bright and innocent, yet that slap echoed through the crowd. I froze, clutching her close, her wide eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have. My mom's smug grin burned into me as if I deserved it too. But that Mike, oh, it caught everything. That night, I made a choice that flipped my brother's world upside down and left him screaming. What I did next wasn't just for me. It was for every kid who needs protecting from their own family. Before I dive into how I turned the tables, drop a comment below if you've ever faced a family betrayal that hit this hard. And if you believe kids deserve safety from toxic relatives, smash that like button and share this video to spread the word. Stay tuned. You won't believe what happened next. Growing up in a middle-class suburb in Oregon meant learning family roles fast. My father, Eric, ran a small tech consulting firm, always pushing for innovation at home too. My mother, Tracy, managed the household, enforcing rules with a smile that hid her favoritism. I was the one who could never measure up, while my brother Kyle was the star they built everything around. From early on, Kyle shone in math and sports, things my parents valued most. Eric would spend hours coaching him on algebra problems, turning mistakes into teaching moments. Once when Kyle messed up a homework equation at age, Eric sat with him at the kitchen table, saying gently, "That's okay, son, let's figure it out together. You're going to run a company one day." Kyle beamed, absorbing the praise like it was his due. But if I dared question something simple, like why we had to follow certain dinner rituals, Eric's face would harden. "Don't talk back to your parents," he'd snap, sending me to my room without discussion. It taught me early that curiosity was a flaw in me, but a strength in Kyle. Tracy played her part by smoothing over Kyle's rough edges. During family meals, if Kyle dropped a curse word while excited about a soccer game, she'd chuckle and say, "Boys will be boys, watch the language next time." Okay. No real consequence, just a light tap on the wrist. But if I slipped up with the same word, maybe repeating something I heard at school, Tracy's eyes would narrow. "That's unacceptable. Young lady, go wash your mouth out and think about your manners." The double standard stung, making me apologize for things that weren't even my fault. She claimed it was about maintaining peace, but I saw how it kept Kyle on his pedestal, ensuring he felt untouchable while I shrank smaller. Eric's drive came from wanting Kyle to inherit his tech legacy. He'd talk endlessly about how Kyle's quick mind for coding would take the family business further, even enrolling him in special camps while I got hand-me-down books. Tracy enabled it all, perhaps to hold on to her influence as the family mediator. Doing out affection unevenly to keep control, their actions shaped us differently. Kyle grew confident, expecting the world to bend for him. I developed survival skills, staying quiet during arguments, anticipating criticism and avoiding spotlights that might highlight my supposed shortcomings. By middle school, the pattern was set. Kyle joined the debate team and won trophies with Eric framing them in the living room like museum pieces. "Look what our boy achieved." He'd boast to visitors when I tried out for the school play and got a minor role. Tracy dismissed it as a distraction. "Focus on your studies instead of pretending," she said, implying my interests were frivolous. Another time at a neighborhood barbecue, Kyle roughhoused with friends and broke a neighbor's fence. Eric laughed it off, offering to fix it himself. But when I accidentally spilled paint during an art project, Tracy made me scrub it alone, lecturing about responsibility the whole time. These moments piled up, reinforcing my role as the family disappointment. I learned to fade into the background, counting days until I could leave. Kyle, meanwhile, sailed through high school with scholarships and praise, his path paved by our parents' unwavering support. Eric saw him as the future CEO, pouring resources into his tech hobbies like building computers. Tracy kept the harmony by redirecting any tension toward me, ensuring Kyle never faced real accountability. As a teen, I built walls to protect myself. I'd retreat to my room after dinners where Kyle's stories dominated, and my attempts to share were cut short. "Not now," Eric would say, turning back to Kyle's latest achievement. Tracy might pat my hand later, but her words rang hollow. "You just need to try harder." Dear, it made me resilient in ways they never intended, teaching me to spot unfairness and vow I'd never repeat it with my own child someday. The suburb felt like a stage where Kyle starred, and I was the understudy no one noticed. Eric's office downtown symbolized his dreams for Kyle, filled with gadgets they tinkered with together. Tracy's kitchen rules extended to emotional ones, where Kyle's outbursts were excused as passion, but mine labeled as drama. I had my escape plan: college far away, where I could finally breathe without their shadows. My first year at college felt like a fresh start. I met my future husband Brandon, a quiet guy from my sociology class who actually listened instead of judging. He didn't care that I wasn't perfect, unlike my parents. I married him, driven by a desperate need to escape the suffocating rules of my childhood home. We settled into a small apartment, dreaming of a life free from criticism. When our daughter Autumn was born, weighing 7 pounds, I held her tiny hand and whispered a promise: "I'll never let you feel the way I did." Brandon kissed my forehead that day in the hospital, his voice steady. "I'll take care of both of you," he said, and for a moment I believed we'd be okay. Those early years were sweet. Brandon worked as a junior accountant and I juggled part-time jobs while raising Autumn. Her giggles filled our home and I felt like I was finally building something good. But cracks started showing when Autumn was 3. I found a text on Brandon's phone from a coworker named Leah. Flirty, unmistakable. My stomach dropped. I confronted him that night, Autumn asleep in her crib. "It's nothing," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. We tried counseling, but Brandon refused to own up or deny it. Just sat there with vague excuses. By the time Autumn turned 4, I filed for divorce. I got full custody, but his financial support was minimal. A few hundred a month that barely covered daycare. I was alone, starting over with a toddler. Life as a single mom was brutal. I landed a job as an office assistant, earning a decent but stretched salary. Rent, groceries, and unexpected bills like a broken water heater kept me awake at night. I had to swallow my pride and ask my parents for help. My father, Eric, wired money for a car repair but couldn't resist a jab. "You picked the wrong guy, didn't you?" he said over the phone. My mother, Tracy, was worse, her voice dripping with pity. "You're pretty but naive. How will you manage alone?" I bit my tongue, nodding through their lectures, my old survival instincts kicking in. Stay quiet. Take it. Move on. Their help always came with strings, reminding me I'd never be enough. Meanwhile, my brother Kyle was living a different life. He'd launched a tech startup, an app for project management that was gaining traction. His wife Tanya, a sharp and stunning marketing exec, seemed to complete his perfect picture. At family dinners, Eric and Tracy would gush about Kyle's latest investor meeting, or Tanya's designer wardrobe. "He's going places," Eric would say, his chest puffed with pride. "A real leader." I'd sit there forcing a smile while they glossed over my struggles. Once I mentioned needing to delay a utility bill, and Tracy sighed again. "Jasmine, you need to plan better." Kyle smirked, saying nothing, as if my life was a cautionary tale. The contrast hurt. Kyle and Tanya lived in a sleek condo downtown, throwing cocktail parties for tech bros. I was scraping by, calling mechanics to beg for payment plans on a used sedan. Autumn's daycare costs ate half my paycheck, and I'd skip meals to afford her dance classes. My parents never missed a chance to compare us. At a cousin's wedding, Eric pulled me aside to ask why I couldn't step up like Kyle. "He's making the family proud," he said, as if my raising Autumn alone counted for nothing. Tracy chimed in later, suggesting I find a better job instead of leaning on them again. Their words cut deep, echoing the scapegoat role I'd grown up with. I pushed through for Autumn. She deserved a mom who wouldn't break under pressure. I'd read her bedtime stories, tucking her in with a smile, even when I was falling apart. My parents' criticism and Kyle's success loomed over me, but I clung to my promise to protect her. I didn't know then that our family's next gathering would test that vow in ways I never imagined. This summer, my mom, Tracy, called out of the blue. "We're renting cabins at Yellowstone for 2 weeks, whole family hiking trails and hot springs. You and Autumn have to come." Her voice carried that familiar mix of command and expectation. I hesitated, torn between wanting some family connection for Autumn and dreading the tension with Kyle and Tracy, but Autumn overheard and lit up. "Mom, can we go? I've never seen cousins or hot springs before." Her excitement tipped the scale. I foolishly hoped things might feel different this time, that maybe they'd see how much I'd grown. We packed light and drove hours to Wyoming. Autumn chattering about spotting bears. The cabin sat along a rushing river, rustic wood structures with stone fireplaces perfect for family gatherings. When we arrived, cars already lined the gravel lot. My brother Kyle stepped out first with his wife Tanya, both dressed like they were heading to a tech conference. My parents, Eric and Tracy, waved from the porch. Then came my sister, Veronica, with her husband, Austin, their kids running ahead, and there was Leah, Kyle's girlfriend from years back, now apparently back in the picture, laughing with Tanya like old times. The air felt thick right away. Eric spotted us and nodded. "Jasmine, good. You made it," he said, but his eyes flicked straight to Kyle, clapping him on the back about some startup update. No hug, just that quick acknowledgement before turning away. Tracy air-kissed my cheek, her gaze scanning my outfit. "You look tired. Long drive." It wasn't concern, it was her usual subtle dig. I forced a smile, steering Autumn inside to drop our bags in a cramped room overlooking the trees. The kids were already outside by the riverbank. Veronica and Austin's 2 boys, ages and tossed rocks with Leah's niece, a girl about Autumn's age. Autumn bounced over, eager to join. "Hi, I'm Autumn. Want to skip stones?" The boys glanced at her, then back to their game. "We're doing teams already," the older one said, not even looking up. Leah's niece whispered something, and they all giggled, moving farther down the bank. Autumn stood there, rocking hand, her shoulders slumping. I watched from the porch, stomach twisting. This was exactly the exclusion I'd feared, the hierarchy starting young, just like it had with me. Inside, Kyle dominated the kitchen conversation, showing off his phone. "This app update just landed a 7F figure. Client," he bragged. Tanya nodded proudly, adding how their downtown condo needed expanding. Eric beamed. "That's my boy building an empire." Tracy squeezed Kyle's arm, ignoring my attempt to chime in about Autumn's school project. Veronica and Austin listened politely, but Leah jumped in with a story about her new job, drawing laughs. I stayed quiet, unpacking snacks, feeling invisible again. That's when I noticed Sean setting up camera gear near the fireplace. My brother-in-law Sean, married to Tanya's sister, was filming a family documentary at Eric's request. He caught my eye and gave a small nod. I walked over, keeping my voice low. "What's the plan? Every moment on tape." Sean adjusted a microphone, his expression neutral but knowing. "Eric wants the full legacy captured." "Everything," he replied, emphasizing the last word. A chill ran through me. He knew the undercurrents, the sharp words that flew in private. This wasn't just vacation footage. It could record whatever ugliness bubbled up. I glanced at Autumn outside, still lingering alone, and wondered if coming here was a mistake. Dinner that night confirmed my doubts. Around the long oak table, Kyle recounted his latest pitch meeting while Tanya passed gourmet cheeses. Eric grilled him on expansion plans, hanging on every detail. Tracy served seconds to Kyle first, then the others, leaving me to grab last. Veronica mentioned her kids' soccer wins, earning nods when Autumn piped up about wanting to try hot springs tomorrow. Tracy cut her off. "Let the adults talk, sweetie," the boys snickered, and Autumn shrank back. I reached under the table, squeezing her hand, my jaw tight. Later by the fire pit, the group swapped work stories. Leah boasted about her promotion, fitting right in with Tanya's circle. Austin joked about his sales quotas, pulling laughs. Kyle dominated again, sketching app ideas on a napkin for Eric. I sat on the edge, adding nothing, watching Autumn roast a marshmallow alone while the other kids formed their own huddle. Sean filmed quietly from the shadows, his lens sweeping the group. Every smirk, every slight, it was all going on record. As night fell, I tucked Autumn into bed. Her face still flushed from the cold. "Why didn't they play with me, Mom?" she whispered. I brushed her hair back. "Sometimes kids need time. You're amazing just as you are." "Hi." But inside, alarm bells rang. This place amplified everything I'd escaped, and with Sean's cameras rolling, there was no hiding the truth anymore. The next morning, we gathered for breakfast at a long wooden table set up by the river. The air was crisp, and the sound of rushing water filled the silence. Autumn, my 7-year-old, sat beside me, humming, "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star," with a bright, carefree lilt. Her voice carried over the clink of plates, drawing a few glances from the family. Most ate quietly, focused on their food. Pancakes, eggs, and coffee passed around. Kyle, sitting across from us, kept shooting looks at Autumn. His jaw tightened each time her pitch climbed, a scowl forming that I knew too well from our childhood. The tension built slowly. Autumn's singing grew louder, her little hands tapping the table in rhythm. I smiled, encouraging her joy. But Kyle's fork paused midair. He muttered something under his breath, too low to catch. Tracy raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Sipping her coffee, Eric shoveled food in silence, his focus on his plate. Tanya adjusted her scarf, avoiding eye contact. Veronica and Austin exchanged quick whispers, their kids picking at fruit nearby. Sean stood off to the side, his camera lens sweeping the table, capturing every moment. Then it happened. Kyle slammed his plate down, the clatter cutting through Autumn's song, his face twisted, eyes blazing. "Shut up already," he barked, standing so fast, his chair scraped the ground. "Your singing's giving me a headache." Autumn froze, her voice dying mid-note. She looked at me, eyes wide with fear. Clutching my hand under the table, I opened my mouth to calm her, but Kyle didn't wait. In one swift motion, he leaned across and slapped her hard across the cheek. The crack echoed over the river, sharp and sickening. Autumn stumbled back, falling into her chair, tears spilling as she sobbed. Like mother, like daughter, both useless. Kyle spat, his voice dripping with venom. I lunged forward, pulling Autumn into my arms, her small body trembling against me. Her cheek was red, the mark of his hand clear, my heart pounded, blood roaring in my ears. Tracy, sitting at the table's end, let out a small smirk, her lips curling as if she approved. Eric stared at his plate, not moving, not speaking, a statue of avoidance. Tanya's face palled, her eyes darting to Kyle, but she stayed rooted, gripping her napkin. Veronica and Austin leaned closer, muttering, "One more time. One more time." As if this wasn't the first outburst they'd seen. The kids stopped eating, staring wide-eyed. Sean didn't flinch, his camera steady, recording every second of the horror. I held Autumn tighter, my mind spinning for seconds. I couldn't move, my eyes locked on Kyle's smug face, Tracy's smirk burning into me. Then it hit me. Sean's camera, the mic was on, had been the whole time, every word, every sound captured. I glanced at him and he met my gaze, his mouth twitching into a faint knowing smile. He gave a slight nod as if saying, "I've got it all." The weight of that moment settled in, a spark igniting something fierce inside me. Shock hit first. My 7-year-old struck in front of everyone for singing a song. The image of her falling, her cry seared into my brain. This wasn't just an attack on her. It was an assault on everything I'd fought to protect her from. Anger surged next, raw and unstoppable. Kyle had belittled me my whole life, but targeting Autumn crossed a line I didn't know existed. I pressed my cheek to her hair, whispering, "You're safe, honey." But inside, a decision formed. Cold and clear. This ends today, no matter what it takes. Sean's nod lingered in my mind. He knew what this footage meant. Evidence undeniable of Kyle's cruelty. I looked at him again, his camera still rolling, and felt a shift. This wasn't just a family moment gone wrong. It was a chance to stop the cycle, to make Kyle face consequences for once. I didn't know how yet, but the mic, the footage, and that faint smile from Sean told me I wasn't alone. Autumn's sobs quieted, but my resolve hardened. This wasn't over. Hours later, with Autumn in my arms, I left the cabin. Her cheek was still swollen, the red imprint of Kyle's hand stark against her pale skin. I pressed a cold compress to it, sitting her on a motel bed nearby. She hadn't spoken since the incident. Her usual chatter replaced by a heavy silence. No singing, no smiles, just a blank stare that broke my heart. I tucked a blanket around her, my hands shaking as I dialed my best friend Naomi, a family therapist who'd always been my rock. He hit her. "Naomi," I whispered, voice cracking. My brother slapped my daughter in front of everyone. Naomi's tone was calm but firm. "Jasmine, don't clean her face yet. Keep any marks visible. Evidence is your strongest weapon right now." I needed answers, and Sean had them. We met at a quiet coffee shop a mile from the cabins. Autumn asleep in the car with a motel sitter. Sean slid into the booth, his face grim. "I didn't just film today," he said, leaning forward. "I've been watching Kyle the whole trip." He paused, choosing his words. "Last year. He slapped Leah's year-old son during a family barbecue. The boy's dad stepped in, but Eric and Tracy covered it up, said it was a misunderstanding. Leah told Tanya, who told me. I was horrified. But today confirmed he's a pattern. He slid a USB drive across the table, his eyes steady. "This has every video from the cabins, plus texts and photos from last year's incident. Kyle's not untouchable. What are you going to do?" "I'm with..." My mind raced. This wasn't just about Autumn anymore. Naomi connected me with a lawyer named Sheila who specialized in child abuse cases. We met at her office the next day. A small space lined with legal books. Sheila listened as I recounted the slap, her pen moving fast. "First file a report with the police," she said. "Officer Kyle Evans, ironic name I know, handles these cases locally. He'll document it as child abuse, a criminal offense." With Sean's video, witness statements from the family, and a medical report. "You got a strong case, prosecutors can charge without you filing a civil suit." She leaned forward, eyes sharp. "But you need a doctor to examine Autumn immediately." That afternoon, Dr. Courtney Singh, a pediatric psychologist, saw Autumn. She noted the bruise, the way Autumn flinched at loud noises, and her sudden withdrawal, clear signs of trauma. Dr. Singh's report was clinical but damning, detailing the physical mark and emotional impact. Back at Naomi's house, we dug deeper. I pulled up TechCore, Kyle's startup, on my laptop. Their website boasted a strict morality clause. No employee could engage in behavior that harmed the company's reputation, especially involving violence or minors. Naomi found an old news article. A former TechCore manager had been fired for workplace harassment after a public incident. The pattern was clear. Kyle's actions could cost him everything. I stared at the USB. Its weight heavier than ever. "If the prosecutor doesn't move fast," I told Naomi, "I'll make sure this goes public." Sheila's warning echoed in my mind. "Be careful. Posting anything before the investigation could weaken the case." But the thought of Kyle walking free fueled my resolve. I had to protect Autumn, no matter the risk. 3 days later, I made my move. Officer Kyle Evans had taken Sheila's report, passing it to the county prosecutor, Mrs. Linda Harper. She moved fast, calling Sean for his footage and interviewing Veronica, Austin, and Tanya as witnesses. Dr. Singh's medical report on Autumn's bruise and trauma was submitted, painting a clear picture of abuse. Kyle was summoned for questioning. At first he denied everything, claiming Autumn tripped. When shown the video, he stammered. I don't recall exactly before his lawyer shut him down, but the process dragged weeks in. Kyle was still free, back at his condo while TechCore hadn't been informed. The system felt too slow and my anger simmered. I sat with Naomi at her kitchen table, the USB burning a hole in my pocket. Why should I wait for justice to crawl? I asked, voice tight. Sheila had warned me over the phone. Posting the video now could be seen as prejudicing the case. Kyle's lawyer will claim you're tainting public opinion. Naomi nodded but added, you could share it without naming him, just the act. The context let people connect the dots. I hesitated. Sheila sighed. So public but technically legal. Naomi leaned in. If you want, I can post it from a burner account. No trace to you. I took a breath. Do it. Naomi uploaded the video to TikTok and YouTube the next day. It showed only Kyle's hand striking Autumn, his face blurred with audio of his venomous like mother, like daughter. Both useless. Subtitles read, a year-old was slapped for singing at a Yellowstone cabin reunion. The family, they did nothing. This is domestic abuse. No names, but it mentioned the cabin setting, the summer timing, and a tech startup exec. Within hours it hit views. TechWars employees recognized the context. Kyle's Yellowstone trip was no secret. An HR whistleblower flagged it. Is our CTO abusing kids? The CEO, Jeffrey Langston, called Kyle that night. Resign by morning or you're fired, he said, citing the morality clause. Kyle quit, but TechCore issued a statement. We condemn violence. Mr. Kyle is no longer employed. The fallout hit the family hard. Tracy called me furious. You've ruined us. Kyle was just disciplining her. Her voice shook with denial. Eric stayed quiet at first, then mumbled, you kids need to sort this out. Veronica posted online defending Kyle, calling it a family misunderstanding until Leah's son's incident resurfaced. Faced with Sean's old photos, she backtracked, admitting Kyle's pattern. Tanya shocked everyone she filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and quietly sent me money for Autumn's therapy, whispering, I should have seen it sooner. Kyle in a panic tried suing me for defamation, but his lawyer dropped the case when the video's truth was undeniable. I blocked Tracy and Eric's numbers and social media, done with their excuses. Autumn began to heal. By fall, her voice returned, singing softly in her room, her smile creeping back during dance class. I watched her twirl, my heart lighter. At work, my boss Jeffrey noticed my focus, promoting me to office manager with a raise. I started therapy myself, unpacking the scars of my scapegoat childhood. Cutting off my parents wasn't about anger. It was about protecting my peace and Autumn's future. The lesson hit me hard. No one deserves to stay in a toxic family, not even for tradition. Kids need safety, not silence. If you faced betrayal like this, know that breaking free is strength, not failure. Thank you for listening to my story. It means the world to me and Autumn. Please share your thoughts below. Have you ever had to cut ties to protect someone you love? Let me know and let's keep this conversation